What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday to you. We're back, and we're talking about the Green Bay Packers and what is truly the doldrums of the offseason. It has been so quiet as of late about anything Green Bay Packers, including any potential news, if you're still waiting, about an extension for Jordan Love. I do got to believe at this point that, I wouldn't be shocked at all if it's inked on the first day of training camp. We know the Packers love doing that. It's a big morale boost. Then they can throw a party in the locker room, etc., etc. So, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Love actually signs it on the first day of camp. Now, I did see Ken Ingalls, I know a very, very respected Packer cap guru out there on the interwebs. He asked the question of, if they don't have it done in time of training camp, is Jordan Love going to be at training camp? And I gotta say, at least from my vantage point, at least seeing, how Jordan Love has worked through all these years and everything, I gotta say, yeah, he would be there. I feel quite certain about that. The question, though, becomes if he still doesn't have a contract when you get to, the preseason stage of things, when it actually comes to, he might actually get hit and hurt. Yeah, no, then he might not actually see the field until that new contract is in and he gets all that guaranteed money that's coming his way. So I don't think the conversation is really, if Jordan Love doesn't get paid by training camp, is he going to be there? Yeah, he's going to be there. Is he going to play in games? That I'm a little bit more doubtful. So, Captain Kebbles, what's up?
In the top left of Michigan right now for me and my partner's vacation. How are we all doing? Happy vacation.
Yeah, happy vacation. You. We're doing good. Yes. It's good to be here. Good to be, I love doing, I don't know if you've seen it all yet, but I love doing the 5-part series that I'm working on right now. Just one fact about everybody, because it's I don't know, you get to see all the quirky stuff. I really enjoy diving into that. So the only other real conversation piece that's out there about the Green Bay Packers to this juncture has been, I saw a conversation today, and I said dive in a little bit about what are some Packers that have played throughout the long history of the team that belong in the NFL Hall of Fame that just have never gotten that call. And so obviously Sterling Sharp, right? He should have been in years ago. Once Terrell Davis went in, Sterling Sharp should have been next. We all know it. Right? But there's other Packers throughout history that deserve those accolades as well, such as Vern Llewellyn and Lavi Dilwick, who played way back in 20s and 30s time. But if you go look into those two guys, you'll see that they have more accolades than some of the guys who did make it from those founding years. So that's two names that immediately come to mind. Or how about Buford Baby Ray? I can't say his name without thinking of my favorite barbecue sauce. But the truth is, dude was on the 1940s All-Decade team. He made several accolades that were relevant at the time. He's another individual. Or how about Mike Holmgren? Right? Mike Holmgren certainly winning enough to find himself in the Hall someday. Certainly hoping with some of these guys Lavi Delwig, Vern Llewellyn, their time on earth has long since ceased. Holmgren, I very genuinely hope he gets the call before that would happen. And then one last name that I think is really should be there is Jack Venisi. And if you don't know about Jack Venisi, I highly recommend that you go read about him. Vince Lombardi was the GM during the dynasty that was the Packers, but his right hand and the guy that was telling Lombardi who to draft, and even the draft that had 5 Hall of Famers in it the year before Lombardi got there, it was all Venisi. So go take a look at Jack Venisi. Other names, Boyd Dowler, certainly up there. Gail Gillingham was on 6 All-Pro teams and isn't in the Hall just because he played for some of the crappy post-Lombardi teams. The man deserves it. And then Fuzzy Thurston, Bob Skaronski, the list goes on. But those are I dove into the conversation earlier on the Twitter sphere and just said, these are the guys that really got to be in. So, all right, Captain Kebbles.
Saying, wish we were in Green Bay for training camp this year, but alas, next year.
Next year, you're coming next year. Awesome.
And you know who is at training camp almost every single day? Who will be doing live shows after training camp.
It's true. Yeah.
This man.
Yeah.
Right
I'm going to
here.
be so the
Right
way that
here.
this works, if you don't know, I did it last year, except it was all pre-recorded content. This year, I think I'm going to go live, assuming I have decent connection space anywhere. But basically, I'm going to go to the training camp practice. I'll tweet all during it, and then I'm going to go find a park bench or a Lambeau bench. Last year, it happened where I wound up being in a Packers tour because I was at Lambeau doing recording, and they just came walking right through. And then the tour guide even was like, I don't know what he's doing. Podcast, thanks. Watch it out.
Hello.
Yeah. So, that's the way. And then I'll be there every single day after training camp to answer whatever it is that you want to talk about. So, hey, fam, what's up?
I put Sweet Baby Ray's on my ice cream.
I can't say I've tried that. I might be trying that. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of like olive oil on ice cream.
Also weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet Baby, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
I'll give it a whirl, FM. You got it. And I will say too, like the only other really relevant thing that's out there right now happens to be, I know there's been much talk about this, but the white helmet that may be coming, I've heard about it now in both the NFL circle and the memorabilia circle. So I think Riddell is officially preparing an all white Packer helmet. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I got some hopes, but it does sound like it's coming. And then also the Green Bay Packers social media team. They did some work. I haven't seen it on Twitter yet, but like on Facebook today, they put out a nice little profile about every running back on the roster, about how like Josh Jacobs has all the skills. A.J. Dillon, the third down specialist. Like apparently they got some permission to put themselves out there about player roles. But it's good to see them actually start marketing their own players. Yeah, because like I've seen the cries for Packers social media to get cooler and all this. Like fine, that's cute. I like the marketing they're doing right now about their own team. That's really cool.
Packers have always been quite old school in their social media presence, but it's nice for them to get with the times a little bit.
That is a way to say it. Yeah, I'm an old soul myself. I don't even like social media, and yet I do this. But like, I get it. I get that Mark Murphy didn't want to have the risks of social, but it's nice to see them at least do, the kind of stuff that they've been doing during the lull of the off season thus far. Just putting out talking points and selling points about their own guys. So, yeah, there you go. That is indeed the news, my friends. That is basically everything about the Packers going on right now. Captain Cabbles.
New Hope voice line. Almost there.
Yeah, right? Almost. We are, today's the 10th? We're 12 days away. 12 days from training camp finally starting. And what a unique start to training camp this year, putting both the shareholder meeting and the first training camp practice on the same day. Historically speaking, it's been shareholder meeting, and then either the next day or 2 days later is that first training camp practice. They just said, screw it, we'll do it all in one. And it's going to be a zoo on the Packer campus that day. But I'll be there. I'll be going to both. I'll talk to you. Big Al, what's up, Big Al?
Says, hi, John. What is your biggest Packers what if? For me, it's what if Eddie Lacy would have kept his weight down. You think he'll be a generational running back for the Packers? What is your biggest Packers what if?
Awesome. Love that question, Big Al. So, I got to say, with Eddie, I mean, he also had that ankle injury in there too that really began, like he did suffer it, but I think it kind of began to get chronic there too. And maybe it was rate related. You never know. But certainly he had the potential, right? He had the flashes. We all could see that it was going to work until it didn't. So I think that's a really, really valid what if. Mine is kind of twofold, similar in the same way, but like Sterling Sharp. Throughout all of the Favre years, there was Antonio Freeman. There was Robert Brooks. He always seemed to find a number one to throw to, right? But yet in league-wide circles, was Antonio Freeman ever revered as like a top 3 receiver in the NFL? No, not really. It's kind of like, most people prescribe that like Favre made him or whatever, right? To see peak Favre, I'm talking the MVP years like 96, throwing to what could have been one of the single greatest wide receivers of all time in Sterling Sharp. What if that would have happened? Would it have been Super Bowl 32 would have then been the Packers? Would they have made it to Super Bowl 30 rather than falling just short? And I'm not saying the passing game were deficient those years, but Favre to a generational wide receiver, would that have changed the game in the 90s and built a new dynasty for the Packers as opposed to the one Super Bowl that they got? That's the one that I look back on and go, yeah,
I'm
what
thinking
if?
Nick Collins.
See, yeah, and that was
What
kind
if
of the
Nick
counter. Yeah.
Collins didn't get hurt?
Because after Nick Collins went down, like Nick Collins was on a Hall of Fame trajectory as well. And then he went down, and then the Packers, then Ted Thompson searched for a safety for years and never found one. You could make the argument that Xavier McKinney is the answer to Nick Collins because we've gone through years of a lack of playmaking at the safety position with just little spurts of good. But Nick Collins truly looked like a great one. Too many Packers have suffered that fate, that's for sure.
Kevin Kebbell saying, the more I study him, the more McKinney seems like a top 5 secondary player. Tight ends no longer scare me. This feels weird.
I understand that. Hopefully Hafley has something to say about that as well. But McKinney, top 5 secondary player? Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you're going to look at you're going to comp him against the traditionally top corners like Jalen Ramsey or, yeah, okay, then maybe you're looking at McKinney falling just outside of 5 or whatever. But the very real reality is last year, taking out all the bias, taking out whatever else, Xavier McKinney, from a pure statistical standpoint, was absolutely and rather unquestionably a top 2, maybe 3 safety. I think Antonio Winfield Jr. probably just edges him out for that top stat safety. But Xavier McKinney's right there, probably number 2. And then you want to blow it up into the context of corners. McKinney is so good at basically everything. And that's what's so staggering. He truly is a complete safety. You want to line him up on a tight end? Good. He'll do it. You can align him up on the occasional wide receiver. He'll do that too. And by the way, he happens to be the single best tackling safety in the NFL. Right? He's the answer. But that's just the true reality, Captain Kebbles. I think you hit it. I don't think it's over-exaggerating. I think they truly got that kind of guy for their secondary. And I continue to be confused as to why the Giants just didn't want that back. So the Packers are very lucky in that regard, for sure.
Jagavi, how's it going?
What's up?
There was another receiver who hurt his neck too. Terrence Murphy had potential.
Yes. Terrence Murphy was one. Even looking at the running back position, how about Jonathan Franklin? He was supposed to be the lightning to Eddie Lacy, we talked about earlier, his thunder. And then Franklin got hurt. Now, I believe, I haven't seen any recent updates, but Franklin went on to be a mayor and go do great things in his life. But he was supposed to be the lightning to the thunder. Then he had an injury. Terrence Murphy. Heck, Jermichael Finley. Another kind of Nick Collins-esque in that he got started. We began to see what could be. And then it ended before he really reached the height of his superpowers. How would those early 2010 offenses have looked different with the tight end receiving threat that Jermichael Finley was going to become? More injury what-ifs for the Packers. Too freaking many.
Kevin Kebbell saying this team is going to be so much fun.
We say the vibes are immaculate.
Yes.
Right? It is. And this is, it feels like every offseason we just sit here and we go, this is it. This is the one. They finally cracked the code, right? And there were a couple years there at the end of the Rodgers tenure where it's like, they're going to be a contender, but this team, it's just not fun. Something in the water is a little off in Green Bay. Now, what's really enjoyable for me personally is watching this team, even on social, when they get interviewed about do you believe in aliens or whatever, whatever question the social admins got from that day.
How do you build a sandwich? Or and then they released they released a cookbook.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's just, in some ways, this team and how they all seem to be friends reminds me, it kind of harkens back to some of the earlier Favre years where they were just a bunch of kids playing ball. And Favre was such good friends with Chimura and Frank Winters And I know, even saying those names, you might be like, they weren't always the best people. Yeah, I know, I get it. It's not a perfect comp, but like, I just mean growing in the league together, friends. Like, it's so enjoyable to watch for sure.
Shkavi asking any info on Julian Hicks. He is intriguing.
Yeah, super interesting prospect. I think of the like the slate of UDFA receivers, like comparing him to Dimitri Stanley, etc. I think Hicks is probably the most interesting of the bunch, the most Malik Heath-esque, if you will, in that here's a UDFA that in training camp just starts to make plays. Oh, and then he does the dirty stuff too. He blocks well too. Like, oh, and then by the end of camp, it's like, this guy might make it. She's checked all the boxes. For Hicks, kind of one of the big obstacles is the fact that Malik Heath is on the team. Like, there's already 5 basically guaranteed wide receivers, and then you throw in the additional of like Heath or Toure or Dubose. Like, there's just so many when you get to that part of the roster. So I did talk earlier this week, I think you even commented on that video, Jagavi, about Hicks, and the one area that statistically at least is concerning, and I did not dive into his entire game history to verify and see what the context was, but at least from a statistical standpoint, it is concerning that Julian Hicks over the last 4 years got progressively worse in his catching in traffic opportunities. And that's not just targets or, chances. It's when the ball is actually delivered to you, do you make the play or not? And over the last 4 years, every single year, it got worse for Julian Hicks. That's the wrong way, especially when in the NFL, you're going to be going against superior athleticism. You're going to be against guys who are going to hit harder, run faster, etc. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be watching when I watch Hicks in camp is, was it an anomaly? Was it just a statistical weird thing that happened? Or is this a problem for Hicks? Because that could truly derail his campaign.
Kevin Kibble saying, is it me or does the NFC feel kind of wide open? Like, sure, the 49ers are going to Niner and Lions are whatever they are, but anyone else, let's go ball.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Packers easily got rid of the Cowboys last year, but like, let's not forget, that's a valid team down there, right? Like, that's a good football team in Dallas. And then I think you still got to, like, I know they collapsed and there was some internal strife and all that. But, like, look, Philly added Saquon Barkley. That ain't no joke. And I do expect that their run blocking will take a step back just because of how good Jason Kelce was for so long. But the truth is, like, Philly, they still go Philly. And they're going to be a good team as well. Other teams like the Rams are kind of on the upswing even without Aaron Donald, but the Rams are such a weird team. Like, parts of the Rams are young and upcoming, and then parts of them are Matthew Stafford, who's old, and he's not yet breaking apart, but the signs are kind of there. So, like, there's such a weird mix. Seahawks, Mike McDonald could revolutionize that defense for the Seahawks. Geno, if he can be like Geno 2 years ago and not necessarily last year, they still have some of the most legit receivers in the NFL. So there always will be some sneaky teams that work their way in. But no, I tend to agree. It's a wide open field, and that's a good thing for Green Bay.
Chicago saying, I feel the Favre comparison when I watch Love.
Yeah, it's almost like it's so just like cliche, but like Love does some throws that Aaron Rodgers did. And yet it's in the package of this like rough and tumble gunslinger that was Favre. Yeah. It's like the natural evolution of quarterbacking. We had Favre who threw every interception under the sun. Then you had Rodgers who was allergic to them. Yes. And now you've got Love who's just like, I'm just going to put it where I put it. Whatever happens, happens.
I'm going to do both.
Yeah. It's like we've evolved to this mix. It's quite lovely.
Kevin Kill saying, it's funny going into the draft. I thought we'd never get Marshawn in the draft, given where we get running backs. Goody, you thief.
I'm not going to lie. I was not as high on Marshawn Lloyd pre-draft as I have been after draft. It's like, he's one of those guys that pre-draft I looked at and I was like, oh, the fumbles. And he's kind of like a little muscle hamster who moves better. But like, I just don't know if that completely fits with the LaFleurian way of doing things. Meanwhile, I looked at other running backs like Trey Benson, and I fell in love, if you recall, with like Jalen Wright out of Tennessee, because I was like, whoa, that's a quicker Aaron Jones right there. Give me that all day. But the more I've watched Lloyd, the more, I talked to someone on Twitter yesterday about the comp for Lloyd, maybe not being Doug Martin, but maybe a little bit more Maurice Jones-Drew. And that this ultra, like kind of short, very, very compact, but yet a very agile runner. Whereas Martin was more of a just kind of run at you type. MJD combined it all into great success for Jacksonville. And I do see a lot of MJD and Marshawn Lloyd kind of like, I see that as a very valid comp. And I've just kind of risen on Marshawn Lloyd the more I've learned. And I'm very eager to see him. Running backs I don't really care about until the pads come on. Absolutely, I'm excited to see what he can do when we really get to football. But yeah, for sure.
Kevin Kill saying, we can build a Jordan Love. We have the technology.
Yes. We're just going to keep going with Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and eventually we're going to have the perfect one who does all the things. Yeah. The only thing that like Jordan Love doesn't have in his full arsenal is like and he can run, but it's not like he's Anthony Richardson or like prime Mike Vick running around back there. That's the one thing. Even his scrambling is kind of a mix of Favre and Rodgers, and that like it's very physical. Like Favre, like Rodgers was never uber physical. Love's got more of that like physique, but he's like kind of just nimble like Rodgers. I tell you, it's just weird how we wound up here for sure. All right, everybody, I'm going to hang around for just a few more seconds, seeing if anybody sneaks in here with any more questions. But thanks for the conversation today. Be on the lookout. It'll probably go out like at least Wisconsin time, dinner time-ish, for the next part 3 of the 90-man series, and then video tomorrow, and then a video Friday as well. Then next week, we're talking Super Bowl. So Captain Kibble sneaking in here with one more.
Andy Herman saying that Jacobs still has that 2022 in him.
I would agree.
That to his eye, it was the O-line and him just assuming he can't look for gaps and just had to duck and go. This team is going to be absurd.
Yeah, and I think your summary there, Kebbles, is it is like it. Yes, that is what Herman has said, etc. But I would agree with the idea that Jacob still absolutely has 2022 in him. Like, that guy's not gone. Not by any stretch. He's not like a past his prime runner at all. I do think, though, that going back and watching last year, and PFF, for what it's worth, like, did seem to agree that, like, Jacob's decision-making last year, and maybe this is what you're alluding to, in that, like, he, at times, was hoping for 22, but blocking to be there again. And like his decision making as a runner sometimes was not the best. Sometimes he had some AJ Dillon-esque carries in him where it's like, why are you running to the people? Run away from the people, Jacobs. And yet with the Raiders last year, like there was a fair amount of running into people. Even the occasional highlight where he ran into his own people because there was just nowhere else to go. I would believe, yes, that with better run blocking, 2022 Jacobs will return. But he's just not going to get that bulk of carries like he did in 2022 in Green Bay. LaFleur's just never going to have a running back like that. So will we see the statistical output of 2022? No. Will we see the play of Josh Jacobs? 100%. Assuming that the decision-making errors of Jacobs last year were anomalous due to bad blocking, or was it just a bad habit that Jacobs truly has to get out of, in which case that's going to stick regardless of the blocking. So
Dave's,
what's up, Dave's?
I snuck in. Good
yes,
job.
You did. Yes, you did. Oh, here we go.
And then he says, don't know what I missed, but how do you feel about Jacob's Lloyd pony package? That was more due to his injury last year.
Oh, sure. Okay, saying like his limitations last year due to injury. I can get with that. That's fair. Let's see. A Jacobs Lloyd pony package. I mean, it'll be fun. Like, there's no doubt about that. Like, you could throw the ball to either easily, for sure. The one concern that I'd have about putting those two together in a pony package is really like, who then is your lead blocker if you want to run out of the pony package. Because Jacobs, at least in pass pro, he's never been a run blocker, right? He's the back. He's good. He's not great, but he's good as a pass pro, right? Lloyd very much needs to work on pass pro. That is one of the deficiencies of his game, as we saw in college. So, and even like if you add one to block for the other, who's going to do it? Whereas with AJ Dillon, who truly has developed as a pass blocker and who has shown that he had the strength to do good lead blocking, it was more like the angles he was taking, more of a teachable thing for Dillon in that role. I think that may just be more what they look for, to use that second running back as like a pseudo fullback. And so like that's kind of what I'm getting at. Jacobs and Lloyd, who's your lead blocker? Whereas Lloyd and Dillon, Jacobs and Dillon, then that answer becomes a little bit more easily solved, gives you a little bit more versatility out of that pony package.
Jagabi saying, this year is going to be a shock to the NFL. I have a feeling Green Bay is the most talented team, offense to defense. The weakness is the special teams, as always. Hopefully the new rules help us. Go Pack, go.
I mean, here's hoping, right? Like I talked about that a few weeks ago, that like the rules basically what Green Bay was doing anyway. Like, yeah, they're going to use different formations and stuff, but like the rules are to get more kick returns out of teams that are receiving the ball. The Packers already had the most returns in the league. So like they're already used to defending them. Like, so the hope is that, you know, from the covering side of things, it won't be as drastic for Green Bay. Of course, we'll see. As for being the most talented team in the NFL, that assumes a couple things, right? We're assuming that the development continues to occur like last year, right? No sophomore slumps, no steps back from third-year players even. But should they be? Yes, they're 100%.
Have a couple saying, let's go hit the quarterback, saying Jeff Hafley.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's their job,
yes.
Right? It's their job. Hafley actually understands that that's their job, not Joe Barry. But yeah, anyway. Next.
You good?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm good.
Jagabi, add Melton to the backfield, 2 uncertain packages.
Oh,
yes,
as a little like Cobb /back. I can get with that. I haven't
I
thought about that
Paul
much,
Melton.
but I'm down.
I love Paul Melton. Dave saying, okay, can we add Pearson or Sims? The another.
Yes. Oh. Yes, to answer that question. So like if you want to do like a Jacobs and Sims or a Jacobs and Pearson, yeah, that's not technically going to be called the pony package. You're probably going to be in some kind of variation of I form. But could you do that? Yes, that you absolutely positively could do. Assuming Pearson makes the roster, he's going to be a pure fullback. Sims, I think if they don't have a pure fullback, I think Sims is going to have some of the H-back responsibilities. So 100%, I'm with you.
Steven saying, hello. It's getting closer, isn't it?
It is. Hello, Steven.
Kevin Kell saying, go Pack, go, and let's all agree, whatever Jordan has played probably deserves more.
That's the hope, right? Yeah.
Big Al saying, what was the worst Packers draft class in the last decade?
Oh, Big Al, you're going to make me look it up. There were, what year was it?
Didn't Jordan Love, save the 2020 draft?
Well, yeah, I mean, but they still had a couple, at least Dylan's contributed. There's one year, why am I blanking? It was 2018 or 2019. It was one of Ted's last ones that truly, no one from the class did anything beyond, their first year, maybe 2. Oh, I'm blanking on it. But that one, let me look up the exact year here, Big Al.
All right. I can't do that while you do it.
Let's see. Steve, I see you're here. Hello, Steve. How you doing? And Steve saying, I'm excited for this whole new look defense.
Me too.
Dave's orbit motion, please. I mean, that would be fun. Dave's 2019, maybe. See, that's one of the years that I'm thinking of. Let me see. I got it pulled up now. 2020. It's not 2019 because 19 was Gary, Savage, Jenkins. 2018 was Jair. Okay, so I was off by a couple of years. There it is. 2015. Listen to this draft class, Big Al. Round 1, Demarius Randall. Oh, that went so well. Round 2, Quentin Rollins. That went worse. Round 3, Ty Montgomery. Ugh. Round 4, Jake Ryan. Round 5, Brett Hundley. And then round 6, rounding it out with 3 round 6 selections, was Aaron Ripkowski, Christian Ringo, and Kennard Backman. Woof. Yeah, so the 2015 class that's the one, Big Al. That's the one that I had in my mind of, like, you look through that whole class and just go, nothing. They got nothing out of that one. So, all right. Gabby saying that's okay because we wouldn't have the talent now if we didn't fail before. Hey, that's a part of rebuilding, right? All right, everybody. Time for us to jump on out of here. Do hope you enjoyed. Be on the lookout later tonight for part 3 of our 90-man roster series, and then also Thursday, Friday, part 4 and 5. So that is what is coming later this week, and then Super Bowl, yes, no, next week, and of course. We're going live next week as well. All right, everybody, go have a great day. And as always, go Pack, go.